Beneath the great hall of Redwall, candles burned bright in their sconces. This was the cavern hole of the mice. What a night it was going to be! Between them, Matthias and Brother Alf had caught and landed a fully grown grayling. They had fought and played the big fish for nearly 2 hours, finally wading into the shallows and dragging it to the bank. It was nearly 2 pounds in weight, a tribute to Brother Alf's angling skills combined with the youthful muscles of Matthias and their joint enthusiasm. Constance the badger had to be called, gripping the fish in her strong jaws. She followed the 2 mice to the Abbey kitchen and delivered the catch for them. Then she made her farewells. They would see her at the Jubilee feast that evening, along with many other Mossflower residents who had been invited to share the festivities. Brother Alf and Matthias stood proudly beside their catch amid the culinary hustle and bustle until they were noticed by Friar Hugo. Busy as he was, the enormously fat Hugo, who would have no other title but that of friar, stopped what he was doing, wiping the perspiration from his bow with a dandelion that he held with his tail. He waddled about, inspecting the fish. Nice shiny scales, bright eyes, beautifully fresh. Friar Hugo smiled so joyfully that his face disappeared amid deep dimples. He shook Alf by the paw and clapped Matthias heartily on the back as he called out between chuckles, "Bring the white gooseberry wine. Fetch me some rosemary, thyme, beech nuts, and honey, quickly. And now, friends, now," he squeaked, waving the dandelion wildly with his tail, "I, Hugo, will create a grayling a la Redwall, such as will melt in the mouth of mice. Fresh cream, I need lots of fresh cream. Bring some mint leaves too." They had left Friar Hugo ranting on, deliriously in his joy, as they both went off to bathe and clean up, combing whiskers, curling tails, shining noses, and the 101 other grooming tasks that Redwall mice always performed in preparation for an epic feast. The rafters of Cavern Hole rang to the excited buzz and laughter of the assembled creatures. Hedgehogs, moles, squirrels, woodland creatures, and mice of all kinds. Field mice, hedge mice, dormice, even a family of poor little church mice. Kindly helpers scurried about, making everybody welcome. "Hello there, Mrs. Church Mouse. Sit the children down. I'll get them some raspberry cordial. Why, Mr. Bankful, so nice to see you. How's the back? Better now? Good. Here, try a drop of this peach and elderberry brandy." Matthias's young head was in a whirl. He could not remember being so happy in all his life. Winfred the otter nudged him. "I say, Matthias, where's this giant grayling that you and old Alf hooked by the claw? I wish that I could land a beauty like that. Nearly a 2-pounder, wasn't it?" Matthias swelled with pride. Such praise from the champion fisher herself, an otter. Tim and Tess, the twin church mouse babes, felt Matthias's strong arm muscles and giggled aloud in admiration. He helped to serve them 2 portions of apple and mint ice cream. Such nice little twins. Was it only 3 months ago that he had helped Sister Stephanie to get them over tail rickets? How they had grown! Abbot Mortimer sat in his carved willow chair, beaming thanks, as one by one the new arrivals laid their simple homemade gifts at his feet. An acorn cup from a squirrel, fishbone combs from the otters, mossy bark sandals made by the moles, and many more fine presents too numerous to mention. The abbot shook his head in amazement. Even more guests were arriving. He beckoned Friar Hugo to his side. A whispered conference was held. Matthias could only hear snatches of the conversation. "Don't worry, Father Abbot. There will be enough for all." "How are the cellar stocks, Hugo?" "Enough to flood the Abbey pond, Father." "And nuts? We must not run short of nuts. You name them, we've got them, even candied chestnuts." an acorn crunch. You could feed the district for a year. Dairy produce? Oh, that. I've got a cheddar cheese that 4 badgers couldn't roll, plus 10 other varieties. Good, good, thank you, Hugo. Oh, we must thank Alf and young Matthias for that magnificent fish. What fine anglers they are. There's enough to keep the entire abbey going for a week. Excellent, mice. Well done. Matthias blushed to his tail's end. The otters, the otters. A loud, jolly cry went up as 3 otters in clown costumes came bounding in. Such acrobatics. They tumbled, balanced, and gyrated, cavorting comically across the laden tabletops without upsetting as much as a single sultana. They ended up hanging from the rafters by a strand of ivy to wild applause. Ambrose Spike the hedgehog did his party piece. He amazed everyone with his feats of legerdemain. Eggs were taken from the squirrel's ear. A young mouse's tail stood up and danced like a snake. The incredible vanishing shell trick was performed in front of a group of little harvest mice who kept squeaking. He's got it hidden in his prickles. But had he? Ambrose made a few mysterious passes and produced the shell, straight out of the mouth of an awestruck infant mouse. Was it magic? Of course it was. All activity ceased as the great Joseph Bell tolled out 8 o'clock from the Abbey belfry. Silently, all the creatures filed to their allotted places. They stood reverently behind the seats with heads lowered. Abbot Mortimer rose and solemnly spread his paws wide, encompassing the festive board. He said the grace. Fur and whisker, tooth and claw, all who enter by our door. Nuts and herbs, leaves and fruits, berries, tubers, plants and roots, silver fish whose life we take, only for a meal to make. This was followed by a loud and grateful Amen. There was a mass clattering of chairs and scraping of forms as everybody was seated. Matthias found himself next to Tim and Tess on one paw, and Cornflower Field Mouse on the other. Cornflower was a quiet young mouse, but undoubtedly very pretty. She had the longest eyelashes Matthias had ever seen, the brightest eyes, the softest fur, the whitest teeth. Matthias fumbled with a piece of celery and self-consciously turned to see if the twins were coping adequately. You never could tell with these baby church mice. Brother Alf remarked that Friar Hugo had excelled himself as course after course was brought to the table. Tender freshwater shrimp garnished with cream and rose leaves, deviled barley pearls in acorn puree, apple and carrot chews, marinated cabbage stalks steeped in creamed white turnip with nutmeg. A chorus of ohs and ahs greeted the arrival of 6 mice pushing a big trolley. It was the grayling. Wreaths of aromatic steam drifted around cavern hole. The fish had been baked to perfection. Friar Hugo entered with a slight swagger added to his ungainly waddle. He swept off his chef's cap with his tail and announced in a somewhat pompous squeak, "Milord Abbot, honored guests from Mossflower area and members of the Abbey. Ahem. I wish to present my piece de resistance." Oh, get on with it, Hugo. After some icy staring about to detect the culprit and several smothered sniggers from around the room, the little fat friar puffed himself up once more and declaimed firmly, "Grayling à la Redwall." Polite but eager applause rippled around as Hugo sliced the fish and placed the first steaming portion on to a platter. With suitable dignity he presented it to the abbot, who thanked him graciously. All eyes were on Father Abbot. He took a dainty fork, loaded precariously with steaming fish. Carefully he transferred it from plate to mouth. Chewing delicately, he turned his eyes upward, then closed them, whiskers a twitch, his jaws working steadily, munching away, his tail curled up, holding a napkin which neatly wiped his mouth. The abbot's eyes reopened. He beamed like the sun on midsummer morn. Quite wonderful, perfectly exquisite. Friar Hugo, you are truly my champion chef. Please serve our guests your master work. Any further speech was drowned by hearty cheers.